When you choose silence with a narcissist, you might think it's just a pause, a way to protect your own peace, but for them, that moment is anything but small. It feels like a direct strike at the very center of the power they've carefully built over you. Because for a narcissist, your attention isn't just care, it's oxygen. It's the fuel that feeds their twisted ego, and when you cut off that supply, their entire inner world begins to shake. On the surface, you may see them acting calm. They laugh on social media, post happy pictures, even pretend to be indifferent, as if your absence means nothing. But that's just the mask. Beneath it, chaos is quietly spreading. They lose their sense of control, their ability to predict your feelings and thoughts. And for a narcissist, unpredictability is the ultimate nightmare. Day by day, they start watching in silence. A quick tap to check your story, a casual message through mutual friends, or accidentally showing up where you usually go. All of it is part of a subtle trap. They want to know, do you still react? Do you still let them touch your emotions? Even the smallest signal can feel like a victory to them, enough to restart their old game. But if you stay silent, completely unresponsive, their obsession only grows more intense. Narcissists don't know how to deal with calm detachment. They're used to seeing you explain, apologize, or try to fix things. But when that familiar script collapses, when you no longer play the role of the one keeping the relationship alive, they spiral into chaos. They become angry, confused, and desperate to pull you back at any cost. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in this video. What really happens inside a narcissist's mind when you choose silence? What daily behaviors do they fall into after losing control? What manipulative tricks do they use to drag you back in? And most importantly, how do you hold on to your emotional freedom so you never fall into that cycle again? Understanding what lies behind silence doesn't just keep you safe. It's the key to reclaiming ownership of your life. Silence. At first, it may sound like nothing more than a pause. But to a narcissist, silence is like a quiet storm, shaking their entire world. Because you need to understand, what they crave most from you isn't genuine love nor sweet words. What they truly hunger for is attention. As long as you keep reacting through anger, hurt, or endless explanations, they still hold the reins. But the moment you stop responding, the moment you cut off every emotional signal, you unknowingly do the very thing they fear most. You take away their lifeline. At first, they won't let you see it. On the surface, they'll perform flawlessly. Smiling pictures, cheerful posts, happy moments that scream, "I don't need you." They want you to believe your silence means nothing, that you hold no weight, but inside, the reality is the complete opposite. Within, it's chaos. They don't know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, or even where you are. And for a narcissist, that uncertainty is nothing short of a nightmare. They begin to lose control. They begin to panic. And so, day after day, they start reaching out. Quietly but persistently, a quick swipe to view your story, an accidental visit to your favorite cafe, a mutual friend who suddenly drops their name into conversation. None of it is random. Each move is a hook, a fishing line thrown out to see if you'll bite. They want to know, do you still react? Do you still let them stir your emotions? All it takes is one slip, one simple reply to a message like, "Are you doing okay?" and the cycle spins right back to life. But if you hold steady, if you keep your silence, that's when everything truly begins to shift. Imagine this. All this time, they've relied on a script. You were always the one to patch things up, to apologize, to explain, to keep the relationship alive. But when suddenly that script disappears, when you stop playing your role, they're left in a void, and that emptiness begins to consume them piece by piece. And they start asking themselves, why doesn't she need me anymore? Has he really walked away? Are they pretending, or have they actually broken free? These questions spiral endlessly, turning you, the one who chose silence, into their biggest obsession. Not because they still love you, but because they can't bear the loss of control they once gripped so tightly. To outsiders, silence may look like weakness, but in the manipulative world of a narcissist, it is the bravest act of all. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it rattles them to the core, stripping away the illusion of unshakable power. And here's the irony. It's your calm, your lack of anger, your absence of blame, your refusal to explain, that haunts them most. Because you didn't just walk away. You broke the game itself. You withdrew all your energy from the battlefield. And once that cycle of power is shattered, they have nothing left to hold on to. In the next part, we'll go deeper. When silence drives them into chaos, what subtle strategies will a narcissist use to claw their way back? And most importantly, how can you make sure you don't get pulled in again? And after you've been silent for a while, you might think the narcissist will finally let go. But no, they haven't given up the game. When they realize they can't provoke a reaction out of you, they shift into a new strategy. This time, they don't come back loud or aggressive. They don't explode with familiar anger. Instead, they return with a different mask. Calm, gentle, even appearing remorseful. A short message may suddenly pop up on your screen. How have you been? Or I just wanted to make sure you're okay. Just a few words, but behind them lies a test. They're probing to see if your heart is still open, if you'll still let them step back into your emotions. Save them days. This is the most fragile moment. After days of keeping your distance, a small sign of care can feel tempting. They know that. They know you once had compassion, that you forgave, that you tried to save the relationship, and they'll use that very part of you to pull you back in. They'll say they've been thinking a lot, that they felt lonely, that they just want someone to listen. It all sounds sincere, but in truth, it's only bait to drag you back into the old cycle. Because the reality is, they're not coming back to apologize, they're coming back to check. If you respond, even a little, they'll instantly feel their power return. If you soften, the game begins again, sweet for a while, then cold, caring for a moment, then distant. And you'll find yourself caught once more in the very spiral that once broke you. But when you don't reply, when your silence holds steady, their confusion deepens. They start to wonder, have I really lost them this time? Did they actually walk away? And that's when their greatest fear rises to the surface, the fear of being replaced. In their mind, you are supposed to belong to them, even after everything is over. So, when you live in peace, maybe even happiness, without them, it feels like a direct blow to their fragile ego. When simple messages stop working, they turn to more subtle tricks. They might ask a mutual friend to casually mention their name. They might post something vague and emotional online, hinting that they still care. Or they may flaunt a new relationship looking radiant and happy just to see if you'll feel jealous, if you'll react. Every one of these moves has a single purpose, to spark emotion from you, because for them, any reaction, anger, jealousy, sadness, means they still reach you. Just one sign, and they'll believe the door isn't fully closed. This is the most dangerous stage for you, because if you mistake this false care for true remorse, you might reopen the very door you worked so hard to shut. But if you stay clear-headed, you'll recognize the truth. They're not coming back out of love. They're coming back because they can't stand losing control. And then, when even these tricks fail, when you remain unshaken in silence, the narcissist slips into a new state: obsession. They stop trying to talk to you directly and instead begin watching from afar. That's when your silence transforms into their deepest fixation, leaving them disoriented and more dangerous than ever. Once their tests fail, once you remain silent, the narcissist doesn't stop. They don't know how to accept defeat. Instead, they begin slipping into obsession. and that obsession usually starts quietly. On social media, they become a ghost. No likes, no comments, no trace, but they are watching everything. They scroll through every photo you post, every word you write, every smile you share. Sometimes they even take screenshots, saving the moments that sting them with jealousy or pain. You may have no idea, but they're tracking every detail, like a secret detective. What unsettles them most is when you radiate genuine happiness. A carefree smile, a peaceful moment with friends, a light-hearted post about life. To you, these are simple things, but to them it's proof you're living well without them, and that's something they simply cannot stand. From social media, the obsession often spills into real life. You pass by a familiar cafe, and there they are. You turn onto a street, and they appear at the far corner. It's not coincidence. They carefully stage these accidental encounters just to remind you they still exist in your world. The frightening part is, they're no longer seeing reality. Instead, they construct a fantasy world in their mind. In that world, the pictures you post are meant to provoke them. Your silence is a test for them. Your joy is only pretend. They twist everything, turning you into a character in the script they've written, just to avoid facing the truth of their failure. But the reality is this: the only one losing control is them. They convince themselves you still belong to them, while in truth you've already walked away. And your silence, the thing that seems so simple, becomes a mirror, exposing the emptiness inside them. The more silent you are, the more unsettled they feel. The more independent you become, the more they unravel. And the paradox is this: it's precisely when you stop reacting that you become their greatest obsession. Not because you're the one they love, but because you've done the one thing they thought was impossible. You broke the game. In the next part, we'll go even deeper. As this obsession grows, how far can a narcissist go? And most importantly, what must you do to protect your peace? When there's a narcissist falls into obsession, they don't stop at just watching. They look for every possible way back in. Through social media, through real life. And this is the moment you need to remember. Silence is not passive. Silence is a deliberate choice. It is the boundary that protects your peace. The first step, simple yet essential: block them. Block them on Facebook, Instagram, messages, every platform they could use to slip back into your life. Not because you hate them, but because you are protecting your mental space. Every time you check their profile, you give them another chance to live in your mind, and that only drains you further. If you sense they're coincidentally showing up at places you often go, trust your instincts. Those coincidences are rarely accidents. Change your routine a little. Take a different route, stop by a new cafe. This isn't running away, it's protecting yourself. Most importantly, don't fall into the trap of reacting. They'll try all kinds of tactics, posting vague statuses, flaunting a new relationship, even spreading rumors, just to see how you'll respond. But you need to remember, any reaction, anger, jealousy, sadness, is fuel for them. When you don't respond, when you remain calm, that's when you truly hold the power. And then, instead of pouring energy into them, turn it back toward yourself. Rebuild healthy connections. Lean on friends, community, or a therapist if needed. Give yourself permission to revive the passions you once set aside, to pursue the goals that were put on hold. Because what makes you truly untouchable is not forced strength, but the freedom of living a life no longer tied to anyone's game. The narcissist wants you stuck in their emotional spiral, always reacting on cue. But when you stand still, when you choose silence with intention, they lose every grip they thought they had. You've broken a system they once believed was unbreakable, and that is the most powerful counterattack of all. What torments the narcissist most isn't your silence. It isn't that you walked away, and it isn't even that you found peace without them. What truly sends them into panic is the thought of you finding a new love. a healthy, whole love, completely different from anything they ever gave you. Imagine how that looks through their eyes. All this time they've held a special role, the one you sacrificed for, forgave unconditionally, and tried to save even at the cost of your own pain. They didn't love you as a person. They loved the function you served in their distorted world. And when that function disappears, when you break free from their control, they fall into a void that nothing can fill. They'll try to reassure themselves that you're faking happiness. They'll tell others you still think about them, that eventually you'll come back. They'll even create a fantasy where you still belong to them. But the more they see you smiling for real, the more they see you no longer playing the victim, the faster those illusions collapse. And then comes the nightmare they dread most. Not only are you happy, but you're loved in a way they could never love you. No more punishment through silence, no more cruel outbursts, no more walking on eggshells. Just ordinary, healthy love where you are valued for who you truly are. For them, that's the ultimate fear. Because it doesn't just prove you escaped their control, it proves something far more painful. They were never enough. They wanted you to believe you were too sensitive, too weak, too much to ever be loved. But when someone else shows up and sees those very qualities as gifts, as strengths, the entire story they built to diminish you dissolves into nothing. In that moment, they don't just lose you, they lose their power. They lose the image of superiority they clung to. And what haunts them most is knowing you're living a life they could never give you. At that point, you are no longer the victim. You're no longer waiting for a glance, a compliment, a scrap of affection. You become free, loved, valued, not because you tried hard enough, but simply because you are you. And that is the one thing a narcissist can never bear, that you stepped out and you found true happiness. Happiness they will never be able to touch. In the final part, we'll close this journey, how to hold on to your newfound freedom, avoid the traps of returning, and understand that true victory isn't about how the narcissist falls, it's about how you rise again. In the end, after everything, what you need to remember is not how much the narcissist is suffering or how obsessed they may still be with you. True victory has never been about watching them collapse. True victory is the day you wake up and realize you simply don't care anymore. That's when you no longer wait for a message, no longer sneak a glance at their profile, no longer wonder if they regret losing you. What they do, where they are, who they're with, it no longer concerns you, and in that moment you understand you've escaped the very cycle they once used to trap you. The narcissist wanted you to believe you'd always be tied to them, that without them you'd fall apart. But the truth is, you did what they never thought possible. You walked away, calm, proud, without noise, without needing to prove anything, without revenge. You simply chose peace, and that choice destroyed their greatest weapon. They may still watch, still invent stories, still spread rumors, but none of it carries weight anymore, because you no longer play their game. You've withdrawn your energy from the board, and without players, the game simply ends. Most importantly, you've found yourself again. You've learned to love yourself, to rebuild healthy connections, to listen to your heart and walk your own path. And along that journey, you discover something simple yet profound. Real love never asks you to sacrifice your dignity to be accepted. Real love doesn't drain you, it strengthens you. It doesn't make you question your worth. It helps you honor who you truly are. And when you find that love, whether from someone else or from within yourself, you become a version of you the narcissist can never touch. No cracks left for them to slip into, no invisible strings for them to pull. You stand steady, clear, free. True victory isn't about how much they suffer when they lose you. True victory is that you broke free, you grew from the ruins, and you are living a life no longer driven by fear or controlled by anyone's game. And if you're at the beginning of this journey, remember, there will be moments of loneliness, emptiness, even sweet memories pulling you back. But keep walking, even if it's just one small step at a time. Because with every step away from them, you take one step closer to yourself. And at the end of that road, you'll see clearly, you were never too sensitive, never too weak, never too much to be loved. You simply loved the wrong person. Today, you are learning how to love right, starting with yourself. And that is the victory that terrifies the narcissist the most, not that you survived, but that you came back to life.